Hello and welcome to a demo walkthrough for the Webcam module in RckForms. Now the Webcam is really neat because it allows us to essentially activate the hardware camera on our device and then gives us the ability to take a snapshot of a live video feed and then send that snapshot to various places like the entry viewer, an external database, or even email. And so in this video, I want to talk through some of the basic configuration options for the Webcam module and then also talk about some of the ways that we can send that data off to various places. So the Webcam module itself is really easy to find. We simply go to the toolbox and we go under Advanced and we'll find the Webcam right here. When we add it to our form, it is configured with a set of default options that usually give us the best set of results. So I haven't changed anything about this item right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and run the job. Now it is important to note that because this is a huge potential security concern, the browser that you're using is almost always going to give your users the option to allow or deny the ability to turn on the webcam. And so you can see here my FaceTime HD camera is basically saying, well, do I want to share the selected device, never share, or not now? In this case, I do want to share it, but it is important to note that if you're going to rely on this capability, not only do you have to make sure that your users have a camera on their device, but they also have to allow it as well. And so whenever there's a lot of stipulations like that, sometimes it may be better to think of alternative ways to get the data you want. However, if you do know that your users are going to have access to the webcam, again, this should be pretty simple. You're going to go ahead and select Share Selected Device. Now, when the webcam turns on, it should look a little something like this. It is just the camera projecting the view off on the user. Now, the webcam itself does have, again, a couple of default configuration options. And if we change any of those options, we're going to obviously change the way the webcam operates. But it is important to be, I guess you could say, careful of especially things like the video size. Every camera on every device is going to operate slightly differently. And I've noticed that on some devices, if I change the defaults for the image to be something other than like non-native resolution or scale, sometimes we get a little bit weird in terms of the results that we get. But for right now, I simply told by default the camera to capture at 320 by 240, and this is the result that we get, a nice non-skewed image. Now, the default behavior of this module then is to simply present the user with a take snapshot link. When they click this, it's going to simply take a snapshot of that moment in time. Now, at this point, I can continue to click the take snapshot button so that I'm going to get an updated version of that image. And I can keep doing that then until the user hits submit. Now, it is important to note there are a few options that we can use to customize that experience. So for example, maybe I don't actually want to show the preview image when the user takes a snapshot. So I can just say, show a textual message. And if I do this, instead of actually showing the preview image, I'm just going to show a little message that says snapshot saved. So it has the ability to do that. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, it could be common that if you have a constrained space situation. So for example, maybe you have what would be the equivalent of a very small web browser. Already 320 by 240 is starting to be a little bit too big for us. And if we have limited space, to show a giant preview image underneath this would be taking a lot of room up. And so we would want to be careful about taking up too much room. And so that's why that exists. Now, we can, of course, customize that message that does show to the user, so I can change that right there. And we also have the ability to change the action message. So in other words, the message that's shown to the user, in order to prompt them to click the snapshot button, we can completely change that. Now, there are two other items here that are generally interesting. The first is we can actually change the destination format of our image to something like PNG, and we can also change the JPEG compression quality. Now, JPEG compression quality is only available for JPEG, and it is important to note that if we use PNG, the images that we get are going to be larger. However, the quality of the image is usually much, much higher with PNGs, simply because they're typically not a very compressed format. And so, as you can see here, hopefully in the video, this image looks a lot nicer than what the original one did. So it really all depends on what you want to do. If you have something like a barcode scanner, or you have some fine details that you want to capture, I'd usually suggest going with PNG. If you have something that's more of just like an ID photo or something fun and kitschy, maybe just stick with JPEG. Though again, if you do stick with JPEG, you do have the ability to change the output quality. So I can change this to 100 right here. And now when I do this, the snapshot should be of a higher quality, that essentially approaching the PNG version of the image. So that is the basic format options that we want to change, excuse me, the basic options that we want to change. We can also, of course, change some of the formatting of the image. Now, it is important to note again that RckForms will choose a default for us, in this case 320 by 240, but I could also do something like 640 by 480, and this will create, as you would expect, a much larger preview image for the user. So now I'm getting a much larger image, and of course, if I take a snapshot, that image is going to match the original that I have right there. Now, what's interesting about this is we can also do things like change the preview image size. So if we are in a space-constrained environment, I can basically do this. I can say, well, I want to show the image, but when I take the snapshot, I want that to be much smaller. You can kind of tool around with that to find a way that works best for the layout that you're currently using. Now, we also have the ability to change the destination width and height. So I could say 320 by 240. Generally speaking, I want to keep those dimensions an even integer divisor of what the source width and image are, but I could do something like this, and now when I actually send my image somewhere, the destination width and height is going to be smaller. And so we won't typically see that as a result of this right here, but it is important to note that if I want to give a nice large preview image, the destination image can be smaller. And this can be important for things like email or sending this like as a text message. So let's take this now and talk a little bit about the output format options. So as mentioned before, we can have basically any output that is a standard output in RckForms be active. So again, I can send this as an entry viewer item as long as we have for the entry viewer, we're going to automatically send images. As long as we have the entry viewer active and we're planning on using that with our form, that should work out brilliantly. We also have the ability to send this as external SQL. So with external SQL, the basic idea here is I can just simply target the name of the webcam item, so in this case webcam 5, and use a standard RckForms token for that. And this will then send that as raw image data to our database. Now, it is important to note that if we're going to send raw image data somewhere, the field that should be receiving this should be a binary field. So in this case, FB demo, if we actually look at this table and the structure, the image field is indeed a blob field. Of course, this is MySQL, but this would be the same if we're using Postgres or MS SQL. It should be going to a binary field. If we try to send it to a text field, it's unfortunately not going to work. So just be mindful of that. Other than that, then, the last item that we have is email. Email here is really simple. We just want to make sure that we have include user originated file attachments, and this will make sure then that any attachments that we have, which a snapshot definitely is an attachment, will get sent in the email. So basically, if I try to send this then, so I'll take one more snapshot and I'll submit it. RckForms then is going to go ahead and it's going to process that through. So the first thing that we've done is we've sent that to the database. You can see here that here's my image. It's been resized appropriately and according to the options that I had set right here. So even though my preview was 640 by 480, the destination was 320 by 240. So you can see that reflected here. So that is the database. The email, let me go ahead and check my email right here, will have been sent over. And here we get then the copy of the image. So here you can see that here. And then finally, we had the entry viewer. So if I go into the entry viewer in RckForms, I can select that job and I have the item. Now I should note right here that this entry is a little bit broken right here because I've been actually, let me show you that real quick. I have been preventing the form from actually fully submitting through because I'm issuing a die statement right here. So I'm getting some strange behavior when it comes to the actual name of the field. But this is just so that I can keep submitting the form over and over again. Anyway, I shall leave it at that. That is the quick overview then of working with the webcam module in RckForms. Lots of options and ways that we can customize this guy, and also many ways that we can send the results of these captures onto our users, again, through email, the entry viewer, or a custom database statement. So thanks for watching. Any questions, comments, please let us know at info@RckForms.com, and thanks for watching.